Hello, kind-hearted viewers. I am Ting Ting from magnificent China. Our people pray that your lives are steeped in everlasting joy and beatitudes from the divine. Welcome to part 3 of our 4-episode show on veganism and vegetarianism throughout history. High-spirited viewers, welcome once again. In part 2 of our series, we saw that vegetarianism enjoyed a resurgence in Europe during the Renaissance period, an influential time for the arts, culture, and intellectual thought. Closely following the Renaissance, the Age of Enlightenment, from the 17th to the 18th century, was a time in Europe marked by an emphasis on empiricism, which is to say, reason and scientific methods as a way to true knowledge. It was a new era in Western thought that saw significant advances in such ideals as individual liberty, democracy, women's rights, and the separation of church and state. Eminent Enlightenment philosophers, such as Voltaire of France and Genevan Jean-Jacques Rousseau, spoke about the sentience of animals. In his book, Treatise on Tolerance, Voltaire remarked,
"People must have renounced, it seems to me, all natural intelligence to dare to advance that animals are but animated machines. It appears to me, besides, that such people can never have observed with attention the character of animals, not to have distinguished among them the different voices of need, of suffering, of joy, of pain, of love, of anger, and of all their affections." Voltaire, Veg Advocate.
In his work, Emile, Rousseau wrote,
"One of the proofs that the taste of flesh is not natural to man is the indifference which children exhibit for that sort of meat, and the preference they all give to vegetable foods, such as porridge, pastry, fruits, etc." Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Veg Advocate.
Another key animal advocate during the Age of Enlightenment was the prolific English writer Thomas Tryon, whose books inspired famous American statesman Benjamin Franklin to adopt a meatless diet for a time in his life. His recipe book, Bill of Fare of 75 Noble Dishes of Excellent Food, published in 1691, is likely the very first vegetarian cookbook in history. Tryon's influence was far-reaching, extending into the next century to prominent Romanticist animal advocates we will introduce shortly. In his book, The Way to Health, Long Life and Happiness, Tryon postulates that God, as well as the great prophet Moses, did not intend for us to eat meat, in line with the great religions we heard about in our previous episodes, which encourage followers to abstain from killing.
The eating of flesh was not allowed or practiced in the first and purer ages, when man gave themselves to the study of wisdom, namely, to the knowledge of themselves, and were partakers of God's secrets in divine and humane things, and enjoyed health and long life, drawn out to the age of many hundred years.
Thomas Tryon, vegetarian.
Romanticism, which flourished during the 18th to the 19th centuries, was a movement that began in Europe, characterized by individualism, intuition, respect for emotions, and reverence for nature. The word romantic conveyed affection for nature. Many romanticists extolled the virtues of a meatless diet based on the unnaturalness of animal flesh from the standpoint of health and mental peace. One of the most influential literary personalities from this era who gave impetus to the vegetarian movement was the great poet Percy Shelley in A Vindication of Natural Diet. In addition, his wife, Mary Shelley, authored the renowned novel Frankenstein, in which the gentle creature is a pure vegan. In 1801, at the height of the Romantic era, writer and printer George Nicholson published a powerful book, The Primeval Diet of Man, in which he quoted Rousseau in the title page, saying,
"Humans, be humane. It is your first duty. What wisdom is there for you without humanity?" Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Veg Advocate.
It was not just the philosophers who had some influence in this era, but also the dietitians. Perhaps the most distinguished among them is Dr. William Lamb, who was widely regarded as the father of vegan nutrition. In his 1815 book, Water and Vegetable Diet in Consumption, Scrofula, Cancer, Asthma, and Other Chronic Diseases, he said,
My reason for objecting to every species of matter to be used as food, except the direct produce of the earth, is founded, as may be seen in my last publication, on the broad ground that no other matter is suited to the organs of man, as indicated by his structure. This applies, then, when the same force, to eggs, milk, cheese, and fish as to flesh meat.
Dr. William Lamb, vegan.
Health-conscious friends, let's step outside to enjoy some relaxing breathing exercises in deep gratitude for the historians who have brought awareness to human divinity. We'll be right back on Supreme Master Television. Welcome back, delightful viewers. Utilitarianism presented the philosophy of the greatest happiness principle, which has as its goal the overall happiness of all sentient beings. It strongly opposes inhumane factory farming on the grounds of the animal's pain and suffering. To many philosophers, loss of life represents possibly the maximum level of suffering a sentient being can experience. In addition, to those who ascribe to the concept of transmigration, such as English philosopher John Walking Stewart proposes that the greatest universal happiness is achieved through benevolence and non-killing, remarking in his 1790 book, The Moral State of Nations,
A man in an enlightened state of nature will be averse to the violence necessary to procure subsistence by animal food. John Walking Stewart, vegetarian.
Another school of thought at this time was social Darwinism, which is a derivative of Darwinism. Social Darwinism proposes the theory of survival of the fittest as a natural justification for food. Two vegetarian literary giants, Mark Twain and Leo Tolstoy, rejected the fallacy of this thought because our treatment of animals as food commodities cannot be called natural. Mark Twain points out that the animals in the wild kill out of necessity, whereas humans created a system of deliberate cruelty to animals that is unseen in nature. Considered perhaps the greatest writer in modern history on topics of ethics and human society, Russian Count Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy's contribution to vegetarianism is immense. The towering greatness of his literature and dozens of philosophical and theological works were irresistible to many of his contemporaries, including a young Mahatma Gandhi, who ardently sought his guidance on the subject of morality, civil disobedience, and spiritual quest. Tolstoy was steadfast and outspoken as a vegetarian for over 30 years, proclaiming in his writings on civil disobedience and nonviolence.
Человек может жить, быть здоровым, не убивая животных для еды. Поэтому, если он ест мясо, он участвует в жизни животного только ради своего аппетита, и так действовать безнравственно. Count Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy, vegetarian.
In fact, for romanticists like Percy Shelley, vegetarianism is a way to return to nature. Well-known naturalist Charles Darwin himself noted that humans are not predators by nature and spoke out against the mistreatment of animals. He said, in addition,
"The love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man." Charles Darwin.
One of the most intriguing assertions that humans did not actually evolve from animals in the way typically described was explained by world-renowned humanitarian and spiritual master, Supreme Master Ching Hai, who says that humans came from a very noble lineage originating in the spiritual dimensions.
Originally, all of you, any of you, all came from very high level of existence. Some of you have had some other bodies, physical bodies. Some of you don't. It depends on which planet you come from. But all of the planet that you have come from are much, much, much more sophisticated than this one. Much more comfortable.
In the same discourse, Supreme Master Ching Hai disclosed that all the animals were originally vegans.
And before the animals, they don't have to eat each other to stay alive, to reproduce.
We are grateful to Supreme Master Ching Hai for sharing her inner knowledge of our noble origins, humans and animals alike. One is reminded of the Golden Age, often cited in the world's religions as epitomized by the Garden of Eden in Christianity and Prophet Isaiah's prophecy of a return to a paradisiacal world when the lion shall lay down with the lamb, and the bear shall eat grass like the ox, and the child shall play on the hole of the asp, and nothing shall hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. Book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 6. We are grateful to the many philosophers and progressive thinkers throughout the ages who have constantly reminded humanity of their compassionate nature. In the next and final episode, we will look at the acceleration of the vegetarian trend in the late modern era and the rise of the vegan movement in contemporary years. Thank you, soulful viewers, for your pleasant company today. We look forward to seeing you again for the final episode on the history of veganism on Tuesday, May 20th. Coming up next is Equanimity of the Buddha, the story of Niti, part 1 of 4 on Between Master and Disciples, right after noteworthy news. May peace and harmony reign supreme on our planet with your generous love and sharing.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/VEG.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/VEG.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule e suprememastertv.com/VEG.
Nossos programas oferecem vários idiomas. Acesse suprememastertv.com/schedule e suprememastertv.com/VEG.
हमारे कार्यक्रम पेश किए जाते हैं कई भाषाओं में। कृपया देखें suprememastertv.com/schedule और suprememastertv.com/VEG。
我们的节目提供多种语言，请看 suprememastertv.com/schedule 和 suprememastertv.com/VEG。
Rancangan kami menawarkan banyak bahasa. Sila kunjungi suprememastertv.com/kehadapan-schedule dan suprememastertv.com/kehadapan-VEG.
برامجنا متوفرة بالعديد من اللغات. يرجى زيارة suprememastertv.com/schedule و suprememastertv.com/VEG.
Naše programy предлагают много языков, пожалуйста, посмотрите suprememastertv.com, /Schedule и suprememastertv.com /VAG।
ਸਾਡੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਨੇਕ ਭਾਸ਼ਾਵਾਂ। ਕਿਰਪਾ ਦੇਖੋ suprememastertv.com/schedule ਅਤੇ suprememastertv.com/veg।